bezpečí.
Jeden svět.
Mezinárodní festival dokumentárních filmů o lidských právech. 22. března
až 2. dubna po celém Česku.
www.jedensvět.cz Pořádá Člověk v tísni.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the second part of the KineDok conference with the title How to Set Up a Screening Venue. It is the first international conference that we are organizing with our project partners. And for those of you who don't know KineDok, KineDok is a project of the Institute of Documentary Film, and it is focusing on community-driven distribution of creative documentaries outside cinemas in very specific and unique venues such as galleries, cafes, pubs, or even castles. And this conference is dedicated to the topic of community-driven distribution, working with audiences, and how to set up a screening venue. And it is sort of a teaser to a publication that we are making, that is in the process of making, and that will be launched next year at the second KineDok International Conference in March 2024. And this publication should serve as a guide for those of you who want to, who maybe are already working with communities or want to see some tricks and tips and get some more experiences from even maybe from abroad. The session that is about to start is called Empowering Communities Through Documentary Film. We will have 3 speakers here. Each of them will present their perspective on either documentaries or community building or even film education. And they will have a 20 minutes presentation, and there will be 10 minutes Q&A. So please, you are welcome to ask any questions that will arise during the presentations. And let me introduce our first speaker, who is Adam Kruk. He's a Polish film critic, journalist, and programmer, curating various festivals and cultural events in Poland. He's a speaker at University of Wrocław. He's a member of European Film Academy, International Federation of Film Critics, FIPRESCI, International Federation of Film Societies, and at Wrocław Film Foundation. Today he will introduce the basics of thinking about film in text, teaching participants how to write about film in a critical and engaging way. So please, Adam, I can invite you to the stage.
Thank you so much. Thank you for invitation. I'm really glad that I'm here and that you're doing all of this, because I think it's super important that we all meet all the industry, let's say, from the region. And I think like the idea of KineDok to kind of take films outside cinemas is super important, and this is also something I'm trying to do with the different projects. I will say a few words about that, because as a journalist, probably, as you perfectly know, these are some magazines I'm writing for. It's really hard to find space for documentary cinema, because like the big magazines, the big newspapers are usually not very interested in documentary films. Well, they're not super interested in films at all, and in culture in general. So if you think about documentary cinema, then like this window is even more narrow. So what can we do to kind of spread the news about what's happening in documentary cinema, and to make the message more public? First of all, festivals, like one word for instance, but also the big ones, and I think we have some good news lately, because more and more often documentary are winning the biggest festivals. That is the example of Berlinale this year, for instance, where Nicolas Philibert won with Sur la Demande. And I'm giving it as an example because Filmweb is like the biggest Polish film portal with reviews, and also like it's connected with it's also a social media, and probably they would never be interested in publishing a review of Nicolas Philibert movie, because nobody knows him, nobody cares, you know. But once the film won a Golden Bear, they got interested in publishing reviews. So this is the way. If the festivals will appreciate more documentary cinema, then there will be more space in media in general to publish news, reviews about documentary cinema. Like the other thing is, of course, like people like Sean Penn, like when Sean Penn visited Berlinale, suddenly like at least Polish media got interested in publishing news about the documentary movie. Like the Superpower maybe wasn't like the greatest movie and a masterpiece. We've seen better movies. We've seen better movies on war in Ukraine. Even here, you could see at the festival two great movies on Ukraine, Eastern Front, and We Will Not Fade Away. Superpower is not great movie, but as it is directed by Sean Penn, it can take its way to the big media, and that's the other solution. Or Venice, of course, when Laura Poitras won with All That Beauty and the Bloodshed, is another example how documentary movies can be better seen, better known. Of course, this is also a question of the character of the protagonist, because probably if you take as a documentary maker Nan Goldin, like famous photographer, as your heroine, it's easier to publish things on such movie than, for instance, about Apollonia, who was like great character, but you know, like nobody knows her. But thanks to the award in Amsterdam, the movie is around. It's here, and of course, it's a great news. So festivals are crucial in spreading the news and making way to the media with documentary movies. Me, myself, I work for Millennium Dogs Against Gravity Festival in Poland. It's a little bit like One World, let's say, but it's happening in several, I think 8 now cities in Poland simultaneously. Like the center is of course in Warsaw, but I'm responsible for the Wrocław edition. So as you can see, it's a smaller, like if in Warsaw they show like 180 movies, we in Wrocław show like 90 movies approximately. It's also a smaller city than Warsaw, but at least we have more or less the same way to Berlin, Prague, and Warsaw. So the location is good. And again, how to build community, how to make people interested in films. Of course, you can. Of course, you will have like cinema buffs who will go to the festival. But if you want to kind of attract other people who are maybe not necessarily interested in documentary itself, but they might be interested in a certain topic. And if you don't have a guest, because you don't always have a director or protagonist who's coming for the festival, it's good to create events on the basis of the topic. Like I remember when we were showing 2 years ago, I think, the movie about the Georgian chess players. So we created like a tournament on the main square of the city where like the champion was playing simultaneously with the 10 people. So it kind of like attracted the public who would probably maybe not even know that the festival is happening. This is last year we were like when we were showing like Nothing Compares, the movie about Sinead O'Connor. We did like a karaoke evening with the 90s song. This is I don't even remember what movie, but these are activists from like Wrocław Pride, that when we were talking about sexual health, they brought all those, basically they are like chlamydia and some other like sexually spreaded disease. So every time we're showing a movie on a certain topic, we try to invite local NGOs, and of course they spread the news, but it makes things more interesting, more visible, and I think that's important. This year we're starting in May, and I saw we're gonna have some movies that are showed here in One World, so I'm very happy with that. But festival is one thing, because probably we all work for, or most of us for some festivals, and we know that it's a lot of work, but then it's a week or 10 days and then it's over. And I think it's important to work on film, on documentaries, on a daily basis too. I do the film society in Wrocław in DCF. This is a cinema with 4 theaters, and every week, every Monday, there's like a discussion club, and I'm showing the movies on a different topics, like the one upstairs that was like food movies. There was sport movies, so every month there's a different topic, and I also try to fit at least one documentary in a season, in a month, like with the food movies that was Truffle Hunters, as I see, and with the sport movies it was Diego by Asif Kapadia. So I think it's important that we don't always divide those two things, like this is fiction, this is documentary, like even directors often don't want to divide it. So this is also, I think, a way to make documentary more visible, not always separated from the fiction, but trying to mix those two genres. Other project I'm doing is called Polish Cinema for Beginners, and this is a project for foreigners, mostly living in Wrocław, which are of course Erasmus students, but also like the workers of corporations, tourists, refugees, everyone who's interesting. So we are showing Polish movies with English subtitles and lecture in English, or a meeting with an expert, with a director, etc., in English, because like probably we all have in our neighboring countries the same problem, that like Polish is not English or Spanish, like people want be able to speak it fluently very fast. Sometimes they don't even feel the need to learn it at all. So we try to attract people, maybe not with the language because it's in English, but with the culture. We try to show Polish culture, Polish film history with this project, and also build the community, because most of the, well, sometimes if it's a case of Erasmus students, of course they come and go, but there are people who are living in the city, and we are doing this project for 10 years already, and we actually created a big community, that people that are meeting each other even outside the events, and like this is, I think, very important. Of course, we had some like important guests like Agnieszka Holland or Krzysztof Zanussi, some actors, creators. Like first season was about like the classics with like Wajda, Kieślowski, Polański, and so on. But then we started to kind of take a different subject and talk about it through movies. Like that was Polish Beats, that was films about music, Polish youth, that was films about young people, that was Polish cities. So they were like different films settle in a different cities. So we also tried to kind of play with the form, try to make it attractive for the audience. And again, like we're searching different ways. I remember one season we were cooperating with some restaurants that were serving Polish soups. Other times they were different. And of course, COVID came and we weren't able to organize it in cinemas anymore. So we moved outdoors because it was legal. And in fact, we decided not to go back to cinemas. Sometimes we do screenings in cinemas, but we think this is maybe a better way, like KineDok idea, to kind of take it out of the cinema, because this way, like, people can also know a city better, different neighborhoods that sometimes are not like super touristic. And of course it's easier in the summer than in the winter, but this is like maybe an interesting thing that COVID brought, like we start to be more flexible, and we also like produce some video essays when we couldn't show movies to the public. Last year, of course, also because of the war in Ukraine, the subject was newcomers, so we were talking about migrations, and in fact there were several documentary movies like Long Day Tomorrow, In Touch, Piano, When Flowers Are Not Silent. Last season was like practically most films were documentaries, and like the topic was to talk about migrations, Polish migrating abroad and foreigners migrating to Poland. this season, maybe I will say that we try to open even more. Me as a curator with my colleagues from Wrocław Film Foundation that we're doing this, we decided to retire basically and make the process more democratic. So we don't want to decide anymore which movies we're going to show, but we will do the workshops with we already selected a group of foreigners that we will meet and they will decide themselves what they want to watch. They will do the speeches or talk to guests. So we're gonna see what's happening and if it's gonna work. But we try to also make it more democratic, like less like now that I'm speaking and you're listening, but kind of maybe reverse a little the roles. Okay. I don't know if I have a time. I just say I'm also working in Dante Alighieri Association. This is like Italian Cultural Institute, and except of the Italian courses and some concert activities, we also do film screenings, mostly Italian cinemas. In Italian movies, X-Formal is a project about museums, so we're collaborating with museums. This is a big European project. Other project of association is, I think, very important. It's called HumCor, and it's about humanitarian corridors, which basically there are few countries who can do it, like France, for instance, or Italy. But in our region, basically, this system doesn't work. It was never introduced, so we try to. It's also a big project with a few countries. We try to connect, like countries who have experience with creating humanitarian corridors with those who don't have it, like Poland, for instance. Now we are still on the process of interviews and collecting knowledge, but we also probably, when the project will be on the further maybe next year, we will try to introduce film as a mean to kind of spread the news about the project. Okay, I think I need to finish, so I won't say too much about Wrocław Film Foundation, but I will maybe say something because I think it's interesting also a way to create communities about the project I was doing a few years ago. It was called Beyond Borders, and it was project Polish-Iranian project. That was a good situation when Obama was, I think, there still. So so you could do things with Iran. So the idea of the project was that we in Wrocław were showing 10 Polish movies to the Polish teenagers, and because it was about film and democracy, and they were discussing, voting, and they chose 5 to show in Iran. Then we went to Iran to show 5 Polish movies, and Iranian team was doing the same in Tehran, so they showed the kids 10 movies, they selected 5, and they came to Wrocław to show 5 Iranian movies. So the kids, like previously, they met each other through films. And then in the summer they met on the workshop. So I think that was a success because it showed the power of films, because then there was no like stupid questions like are the Iranian Arabs or are every Muslim terrorist. You know, like the kids already knew something about the Persian culture, about Polish culture, and they were actually prepared to meet and yes, and that was like, I think, a good example of how film can make bring people together. In fact, some of those Iranian kids who were teenagers, now they're students, and some are studying in Berlin, some in Warsaw. I don't know if anyone is in Prague, but it also showed that the project was a success because they got interested in the world and found new opportunities. I don't know whether it was so necessary for Polish people, but for Iranian kids that was super important. Brave, I won't maybe talk because my time is over. But if you have any question, we have like 10 minutes. And if you want to contact me, it's my number and my email. And yes.
Thank you so much. You can stay on the stage for the questions. It seems like you have so many activities. How are you managing to do all of it? It seemed like your day has to have 40 hours.
No, sometimes I take a break.
Okay, good. Good to hear, good to hear. Self-care awareness window. Okay, anybody has a question ready? Yes, yes, over there. Can you please wait for the mic because we are recording it? Thank you.
Hi, thank you. It was really impressive, the scale of your activities, as Ivana said. I'm wondering because I thought you're a critic, but you are so much more than a critic. So you are an organizer, a programmer, and so on. So how did it come? Did it come like gradually that you got involved with organizing because you saw that there is much more to do, or why did you become critic? Because you were already an organizer and you wanted to delve more into the, analyzing the films.
No, I think that was a pretty natural process. And in fact, I think most, maybe not most, but a lot of critics take this path. I started to publish like 20 years ago, approximately, when I was a student. So first I was publishing, I wasn't organizing things because I didn't have know-how, I didn't have connections, and so first I started to write, so I became, let's say, a journalist, a film critic, and once you're there, it's easier also to organize things because you already have the necessary knowledge. And I think it's also the question of how media market change. It's really hard to kind of survive only being a writer or if you are like a journalist in TV, maybe it makes things easier, but most of my friends who are writing, they're basically struggling. Like, you don't have money for writing. It's like a question of passion, of love for cinema, but it's not like, and if people have like families, sometimes they have to survive, so they become a lot of like film critics, have to go to like PR, for instance, because, they need to make money, and of course they cannot, some do, but it shouldn't be like that. They cannot write anymore because then you're not, you have someone who influence your point of view. So I think it's like a natural way. A lot of like film critics become festival programmers, festival directors. Some are going to PR, as I said. Some are becoming filmmakers, but I think that's not a big percentage. But I think like writing about the cinema, it's a good start. Of course, you had like in the past, like people like Pauline Kael or other critics that were doing it their whole life and they could afford it. But there are a few media like this, that you actually can dedicate all of your time just doing film criticism. Usually you have to connect it with other activities. And it's also a question of maybe the way you're built. Like some people like, I guess like writing about film is quite isolating. You have to like sit in the library or at your home with your computer, with books, and then you go to the festival and it's like super social. So it's a little bit schizophrenic, and like I couldn't stay in the library all the time, so I kind of need to do things. But then when I do too much, I need to shut and then be with myself. I think it's very personal also how you choose your profession or how the profession chooses you.
Thank you. Very philosophical ending. Is there another question from the audience? I maybe have a question for you as well, because if I understood it correctly, like all of your activities have something to do with documentary film, and they are organized in Wrocław. So I wanted to ask: is there a big documentary film fan community, or what is the audience's response? For example, in the part that you mentioned, the docs for beginners, so people who maybe come to see documentary films for the first time, or yeah, what is the general response from the audience?
I think the audience is quite open, and as I said, it's like the Docs Against Gravity is like exclusively non-fiction festival, and it's have a big audience, so it is popular. But Polish Cinema for Beginners or some other project like Film Society, they're not only documentaries, but it doesn't scare people that, okay, maybe I remember last month we were showing movies about actors, and like on Competencia Oficial, the Spanish movie, there was like full people, and there was a pleasure about porn performance, so there were plenty of people, and then we showed the Hamlet Syndrome documentary about Ukraine, and there were very little people, so maybe it scares sometimes people, but also like the topic might have scared people. But I think like if you show a very important movie, sometimes it's better to show it to the 5 people, and 4 will keep it in heart and maybe change something than not doing it at all. Like you don't have to always have a full room. Like probably the owners of the cinema like have other criteria and they would like to always to have sold out. But I think sometimes it's better to show something important for less people, but than not doing it at all.
Definitely, I agree. Still, one more question. We have time for that. If anybody wants to ask. Okay. Thank you so much, Adam.
Thank you so much.
Great. Good luck. Our second speaker today is joining from Hungary. Her name is Enikő Gyureskó, and she has worked over 10 years. She has over 10 years experience in project coordination gained in a cultural and civic sphere. She joined Verzio International Human Rights Documentary Film Festival in 2016 as festival coordinator, and since 2021 she is the managing director of the festival. And today she will discuss the process of curating and organizing film programs, highlighting the importance of diversity and inclusivity in film selection. Please come on stage. Yes, that's the mic. And this is the clicker for the presentation.
Okay. Yes. Have a seat here. I just push I'm Enikő from Hungary, as Ivana said, and I brought with me a Chinese cat. I don't know if you can see it. And I want to say why. It has multiple reasons. One is because I have a cat and I love cats. And the other is I just got it from my Polish friend and colleague from Watch Dogs Warsaw, who's sitting over there. And the other reason is that I don't know if you realize, but in like 8 films out of 10 there is a cat in documentary films, and I call it a documentary cat, and I want to make a shirt and sell it worldwide. The cat holding the camera this time. So that's my startup idea. Please don't steal it. Yeah, and I'm basically the managing director, which is funny because we are like a 2-people team. So we take on a lot of roles. So I also do programming. And we are focusing on human rights documentaries, like One World. We were basically based on the idea of One World. We started in 2004, so this will be our 20th anniversary. And besides Budapest, where we have multiple venues, as you can see on the screen that I'm covering maybe for you, there are 6 other towns, and some of the venues are actually KineDok venues. So here I am connected to KineDok, and I also work for KineDok Hungary, actually. This is what we do, more or less, the screenings. We are online since 2020, basically trying to show all the films that we have in the program online. So this is just a short introduction, then I'll get to the point. There are guests, filmmakers. We do Q&As with them. We invite a lot of experts who relate to the film from another field, different department outside of the film, including journalists, psychiatrists, activists, and so on. We try to create a platform for the industry people, because in Hungary there is only one more documentary festival, and for many years Verzio was the only one. So since our film institute doesn't really do many trainings besides the university education, people don't really have a chance to network with each other or with their European colleagues or international colleagues. That's what we try to do at Verzio. We invite people from abroad so they can meet each other, learn from each other, maybe start cooperations. And our idol is IDF. They are the best. We have a filmmaking workshop called Verzio Doc Lab, which is focusing on story development and editing. We have good mentors, and it's a free workshop. I really recommend. You only have to cover your travel and accommodation, but sometimes we can help with that. And last year we started a critics workshop for young critics. It went quite well, so we will continue. It's also open to the international level, so also free. We will have these calls opening in the summer, I think. And this is because, although there are many platforms for reading or publishing film reviews, documentary has never really been in focus. It doesn't really go into cinema distribution in Hungary, and that's why alternative options like KineDok are really important for filmmakers to share their documentaries with the public, and also for the audience to watch these films. You can't reach them online either, so it's totally unique opportunity. And we want to help the culture of writing and reading about documentaries grow, and we have a blog where we can publish all these reviews at our website. So concerts are an important part of our activities. Our concerts organizer is also a KineDok coordinator in Hungary, besides moderating our student programs and so on, multiple issues. Yeah, and I mentioned these things, and we also cooperate with graphic design students, so we can have an exhibition of alternative film posters of the films that we have in the program that year. The educational activities. So we have, besides the mentioned workshops, just screenings for high school students. We select a specific program for them that fits their interests or speaks the language that maybe speaks on their language better. And it's followed by discussions which are supported by the teachers, meaning that we prepare toolkits so they can continue the conversation on these topics when they leave the cinema as well. And the mentioned university collaboration includes cooperation with the media and communications departments and film theory departments, who during this autumn semester, coming up to November when our festival is, write about the films in advance. They get access to the films they choose to write about, and these are either like studies, like longer, more serious writings of MA students, or short essays from BA students. That's Sabi, on the KineDok coordinator of Hungary. And our festival is growing, luckily. Of course, COVID was a totally situation when we couldn't hold physical screenings, but we could reach more people than ever before. It was 30,000 online viewers, which was 3 times more than we ever had in the previous years. And then it showed an interesting decline in 2021, jumping back to 20,000 visitors. 5,000 of them came to cinemas and the rest still watched online. But this autumn was still quite a lot of sickness and COVID cases, so we understood. Last year, as you can see, more people came to cinemas, and dogs too, of course. And I think it's like an international or at least European trend. So I see when I talk to my colleagues from the region that they show very similar numbers. But having the online is, for me especially, super important. When I talk to my colleagues, they don't really share this. They really want to focus on bringing people to cinema. It's not that I don't want to do that. It's just that these people don't have the chance to go to cinema. So they are living in faraway parts of the country, or they are mothers who have kids to put to bed and other reasons. They don't like to go to crowd and so on. It's important that we give them the chance, because we received a lot of emails in 2020 which were saying thank you for making the films available. It's the first time that I get to watch so many, blah, blah, blah. So it was totally positive feedback. And a little more about who our audience is. There are, besides Hungarians, thanks to the online, some people who can join us outside of Hungary. And we do some quizzes, like after the screening, and we use Google Analytics and other tools to like get some idea who these people are. Of course, we talk to them and we meet them, and that's also giving us information. But yeah, we can definitely say that there are more women interested in coming to Verzio. And they are usually employed, and they have education, and they are between like 25 and 45. There are also, thanks to the student Verzio program, a lot of young people from high school, over 1,000 every festival. But there are all kinds of people. I mean, because we are showing a great variety of films, so it's really not focusing on one small section of the people, I would say. That's boring. Yeah, this I already talked about. There are the posters in the background, and the essays that we publish. They also do Q&As. The university students, they do interviews and Q&As. This girl on the top left corner was one of the students who was really active. And we have a student jury who are like 5 young university students every year awarding the main prize of the festival, which is not so typical, I guess. The best human rights film selected from the international competition is awarded by students. So about programming, as I said, I'm not a film critic, or I didn't study actually film theory either. I studied art history and art management, but I learned from my boss during the years how to do that. And I think where you have to start, like zero step, is to define what you want, who you are, what you want to represent, and then build your program slowly from there. For example, there are film clubs that focus on very niche films. They have their audience, or films are about environmental issues, or films which won all the awards and now have to come to your country as well, and you want to be the one who brings them on the red carpet. And there are other aspects, like educational aspects. I think at Verzio we really want to focus on important, urgent topics, and we want to show a geographical diversity. So having films, of course, from Europe, because we get our funding from the EU, but also from the US, from China, from India, from faraway islands. It's important to get a global picture of what's happening. Gender balance has actually never been an issue. We always accidentally have more than 50% of the directors women in our program, and women's rights and LGBT rights were always highlighted, important topics at our festival. Or minorities in Hungary, mostly the Roma minorities. And yeah, we always do in this quiz, like we list a lot of topics, like human rights or social topics, and we ask like, what would you want to see more, which topic? And I think recently it was poverty. So there aren't so many films, especially focusing on poverty. Of course, it appears in many films, but a few years ago it was environmental films that was the most popular. This last edition we really focused on Ukraine, of course, but films about the war specifically were not actually so ready by that time yet. They are coming out now, and they are coming out, of course, next year. So we showed films which were not really about the war, but they were Ukrainian films. And sadly, we didn't have a lot of people coming to those screenings. I'm really sorry, but I thought a lot about it, and I think it's very close. It's been a year, and they read every day about the war in the news, so maybe they wanted to like release, get some distance by going to, let's say, a movie which is from South Africa. I don't know, but it's something that had like a solidarity to it for us organizers to show these films, and they were great films. So yeah, it's something to work on for us, how to basically market these films to our audience. And this is my favorite part, feel the zeitgeist, the sixth sense in programming, when you like look through these 800,000 of films as programmers, and you see a trend sometimes, like, oh, this year there are a lot of movies about, I don't know, mental health. So like definitely it was not just because of COVID, it started, I think, a bit earlier too, that we talk about this more, but also thanks to COVID, we had like a section, where is it? This one, 2021, section on mental health issues. These were the films that we selected. It was really popular, like some of them, especially The Young and Afraid, which was about young people who would take most of our audience. For example, Night Shot was a curiosity in the program, something that is not really our profile. It was niche, I mean. It didn't have a lot of viewers. Yeah. unfortunately. But if you have a chance, it's from Chile. It's really, really strong film. So that's what I have here at the end, I guess. That we try to work show heritage works, and we often have like retrospective programs, homage to filmmakers who passed away or have like a memorial year, jubilee. And we take seriously this media literacy mission, of course, by doing that. Yeah, we had a section with animated documentaries, like the mixed genre animation, but also documentary last year. And we do VR exhibition, like the ones here, very similar selection we had also last year. So we try to be open and not just show the classic documentary as well. Keywords. When you want to simply describe a film that you just saw to your boss or to anyone else. But when you see our slogan, this was in 2018, the latest imprint of the world, it's always something very similar. Every year we changed our slogan, but it's always something that tries to express that it's trying to show a global and current image reflection of the world. And these are the things we think about when we try to create a program. I think it's really important that you read a lot of news, you talk to a lot of people, and you can get like an analysis of what is the topic, the trend. It's normal, like everybody does that, but when you program, this is also important. And whenever you're in doubt, just talk to your friends, neighbors. Try to imagine what different kinds of groups would think about this film, or as if you want to show a niche and you are like totally fell in love with that film, then don't worry what others think, just show it, you know. When you show 80 films, you can put there your favorites. It's okay. That's my opinion, at least. Like when they see it, they will love it anyway. The problem is that there are those films that have a horrible synopsis, and you put it in your catalog, you put it on your website, and it doesn't go through. You are like telling people like, this is the best film, you have to watch it, and they read it and like, what? What is it about? What? I don't know. Like, it's super important to work with people who can write a good synopsis, because directors or film crews don't necessarily write good synopsis. And yeah, so I think the key is to know your audience and know your values, so you can combine these two, and then you have a good program. And this is Maria Chuprinenko, who was our guest at last year's festival opening, singer-songwriter from Ukraine. And like nobody understood why we do this one guitar show, and she was singing in Ukrainian. And yeah, we had like a short documentary before. No, it was after. So first she sang, and then we watched this short documentary about two teenagers living in Budapest who escaped from Ukraine. And she made everybody cry. So it was like the opening where we cried the most. And she was such a persona. She created such an amazing atmosphere. She brought out the empathy from everybody for the Ukrainian people. And I think documentary events are about like your heart and feeling, because we are a human rights festival. I can't really speak for the niche program organizers, but I think once you watch a film and you don't even know yet like what kind of words to describe it, what you feel is important, and then that's my tactic. I take some time and start analyzing like why those feelings emerged, and Maria did the same with us. Thank you. this was my presentation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much. I like that you say that sometimes it's good to program for yourself, because I also work at a documentary film festival focused on science films called AFO here in Czech Republic, and we always have this saying that you are your biggest critic. And in that sense, we try to like create a perfect event, if not for the audience, then at least for us. So I just wanted to add that. Is there any question ready from the audience? Yes?
Thank you. I have a question, and sorry, my English is not that good, so maybe it won't sound as a question. I hope, but I try. So you work with a lot of very hard topic movies, and maybe with the synopsises you touched a little bit this point of it. But these movies are really hard to sell somehow. And what a Human Rights Festival can do to grab the audience,
Yeah.
especially younger people, and especially in this kind of huge move of Budapest, and we have a lot of things to do every night, why we should do and watch documentaries about war, about suffering, and about being cold, and about this kind of things. How can you find the hook? And what are your efforts in the festival to do this?
I think you need to talk to people in person, and when I come to One World, I talk to the people here who already maybe programmed the films or saw a lot from the films, and I ask like, what do you recommend? So I think this is the best way, because I can go through the catalog, I can watch the trailers. It doesn't matter sometimes. Maybe it doesn't get your attention. Like I watched the Apollonia yesterday. I read the synopsis. I was like, it's an artsy film about an artist. Okay, I've seen films like that. Oh, I was so wrong. It was one of the best films I've ever seen, literally. And I was crying a lot. So the emotion was there. And then I started to think, why? And we had an amazing long discussion with the One World programmers. And the problem is that sometimes you have a lot of films and very little capacity to promote each film individually. That's why you have to start the communication campaign in time. Like we know that 1 month is not enough, for example, to put our program out there. We have to start communicating about the films earlier. It's crucial when you publish the films. It cannot be like 1 week before, but I think when you are an event organizer, you know that. And the other thing is that when your press officer writes the press releases, I think you must be there with her and help her and guide. I say her, but it's always at us, a woman, sorry. So when you have that input, your emotions come through the texts. That's important when you speak with enthusiasm about films. And when you start this campaign in time, then you have the time to speak about all the films with enthusiasm. And it's important, this network with the cultural actors and civil actors in your community, because they help you with this work. They will speak to their smaller community to give your tips through their channels. So that's very important, I think, to have a lot of partners and partners in crime.
Yes, I agree. Thank you. Any other questions from the audience? Yes, in the front.
I'm afraid of critics.
No, I just wanted to ask you about, it's super impressive what you are doing and what you're showing. And I was just wondering, that's like you show movies also environmental, about LGBT community, all the things that's we probably all feel that matters and need to change in our region. And then politically wise, both in Hungary and Poland, we feel that we don't have an impact. Like we want to change the world and we just don't succeed. And doesn't it get frustrating sometimes?
Yeah. I think it's not accomplishable necessarily. So it's too high goal. Like they say that if you want to not to burn out and you want to be successful and have the energy to continue, then you have to set small goals. And I think for us, it's already an achievement that we don't lose audience. I think that's one thing. And we are like among the other cultural and social actors, one important one which gives hope and a sense of community. It's making us visible to each other. We can see each other. There are a lot of people here, so it means there are a lot of people who care. So it's maintaining a certain level of hope, I think, to do these kind of programs, no matter how small the screening turns out to be. It's better than when you don't do it. So imagine that in Poland and Hungary, all the little festivals disappear, like because we give up hope. I mean, yeah, maybe we won't be able to be in the national television and in the commercial television where you have to pay, I don't know, chilliards of money to get your promo. And but we work with all the other available channels and all the people who think like us. And we are a lot, actually. We are just like so nice, we don't break stuff.
That's a good answer. Thank you.
Who would buy a documentary cat t-shirt? Oh, okay, I'm gonna start this. Okay, thank you.
Cats made dogs. Thank you, Enikő, for the presentation. And our last speaker today is joining us from Austria. Her name is Annelies Cuba-Fried, and she studied the theory of theater, film, and media in Vienna, and wrote final thesis about the figures of teachers and students in children's films. And she works in the Wienxtra Cinemagic, an art house cinema for children and young people in Vienna. And today she will present her the youth-focused activities of the Wienxtra Cultural Center. So please welcome on stage, and the floor is yours.
Yes, hello everybody. Good afternoon. That's my presentation. We are not only working with documentaries, but also with like feature films, as you will know soon. First, for example, first something about me. I studied the theory of theater, film, and media in Vienna at the university in Vienna, and almost at the same time I was part of a film jury, a young which was called GAFFA, Youth Film Festival, which doesn't exist anymore, unfortunately. But after that, I started working at the cinema, at the Cinemagic, just beside my studies. And since 2016, I'm working there as a full-time job, let's say. And what I do now there is that I'm together with a colleague. We are choosing films for different programs. We are creating and presenting short film programs. I moderate different kind of talks and do different kind of film education, as I will tell you soon. And once a year there is the International Children's Film Festival going on in the Cinemagic as well, and therefore I'm coaching and organizing the children's jury. So some more notices. First of all, I want to introduce or present you a little bit about the Wienxtra Cinemagic, which is an art house cinema for children and young people, as you can see, also with their parents. And we have a film program every day, depending on the time. So from Monday to Friday in the mornings, there are primary schools, secondary schools, and groups of kindergartens coming. And in the afternoon, there are full-day schools coming or daycare centers. And on the weekends, on holidays, like everybody else, families, grandparents with children can come to the cinema. So we are screening films every day, Monday to Sunday, almost the whole year, and all of that for very low price tickets. So a ticket is just between €3 and €4.70 per person. I will tell you soon why it's so cheap. And there are 2 film festivals going on every year. The one is the one I've told you already, the International Children's Film Festival in November, and the other one in October. It's a youth short film festival where young people can screen their own movies in the cinema. Yeah, our slogan is, let's say, cinema culture for the young generation. And our program includes as well current releases, also premieres and classics. And we would say our philosophy is entertainment with quality. It's very important for us that we have a good age recommendation. And exactly. So. And we have about 50,000 people the year in the cinema, and from those are about 15,000 students. So just that you know around how many people we have. And Wienxtra, what's Wienxtra? Because it's very related to Cinemagic. Wienxtra is a social profit organization in Vienna, open to all children and young people. There are 11 different institutions, and one of them is the Cinemagic, the cinema. And all of them organizing events and workshops, do information and education stuff. Also parents and teachers have their own educational program. All of the topics are like music, cinemas, games, media, and some others. And all events and workshops are at little or no cost, which is very important. And therefore, because it's a cooperation with the city of Vienna, and it works closely with the municipal department youth. And that's the reason. And therefore, we don't have to find schools who can come to the cinema. So all schools in Vienna gets our program, our print program, twice a year, and they just come to the cinema. And in Vienna, it's a very long tradition that schools can go to the cinema at all, and especially to the Cinemagic, because they come to us already almost 40 years. So yeah, that's the good and easy part of the work, that we don't have to acquire schools. Then about our film education stuff, for us, a good selection of films is already the first part of film education, we always say, and our films are like chosen by 3 different kinds. One is like the all-time classics. I'm sure most of you will know at least Pippi Longstocking, or for example the Smurfs. But we also screen big blockbusters, such like current releases from Disney or other distributors, and for example some films like Harry Potter, which of course is not that new, but it's still very popular. And the third thing is that art house European art house films, such like small productions, also films that haven't been in the cinema in Austria before. So especially we take them most of the time from Germany, but also from other festivals, and then we screen the films in our cinema. For example, here on the top, on the right-hand side, you see a Norwegian children's film, which is called Tottori, a very nice one. Or below, it's comedy from the Netherlands, which is called Pirates Down the Street, like Pirates of the Caribbean for children. It's a very good one. Yeah, we also screen documentaries as well, but not only. But in our school program, which we do twice a year, we try to take at least one documentary in it, sometimes even more. And the most popular topics are like education, climate change, activism, history, and society, as you can see. And also like biographies, for example, from Malala Yousafzai or Greta Thunberg are very popular at the teachers. So they book all the documentaries they like it. Then I want to present two things which we are doing for small children, because all of the children which are coming to our cinema are between 3 years and 18, so it's really children and young people cinema. The one thing is the picture book cinema, which is the most popular program in our cinema, and therefore the pictures of the books are shown on the big screen. A storyteller is in the cinema, and live music is performed as well in the cinema. There are always 3 books presenting. Every book has like duration of 15 minutes, and 2 colleagues of mine invented this kind of cinema for more than 20 years ago. And at that time, or now, we already had more than 50 books presented on the big screen. And it's for children from the age of 3 years old. So we always say it's the start and the smooth start to the cinema. Another program which we invented just 5 years ago is our short film programs. Why we invented them? It's because we still showing feature films for young children, like from the age of 4, but we noticed that there aren't so many good quality films for small or young children, as we like to call them. And then we said, okay, let's do a short film program by ourselves. And the very good thing about it is that we can screen international films, because they are most of the time without any language. So we don't have the difference of the language at those films, because they are mostly without dialogue. And so we had every short film program has a certain topic. For example, we already had like Forest and Meadow, or Snowflake and Woolsock in the wintertime, and even every program has about 6 to 8 movies. What else do we have there? We moderate the short film programs in the beginning, in the middle, and at the end, where we introduce the films and also talk like 2 questions with the audience. The short film program is for children about 4 years old, but also like 6-7-year-olds really like it, because most of them are really funny. And the duration of it is about 50 minutes. So back to the real film education. We organize film talks with guests, and after selected films, so it's always for the whole audience, for all the schools which are in the cinema, or for families, depending on the day. And sometimes we are inviting people from the film, like directors, actors, actresses, people from the sound, from the light, whatever. At the picture you can see Alexandra Pfeiffer, who is an actress and dancer from the movie Into the Beat, and she was in the cinema in January. Or we invite experts on a specific topic of the movie, and then we talk with them. But we also do some film talks by ourselves. They are just for one group or for one class or families, and also just after selected films. So schools can they come to the cinema, watch a movie, and then they have a specific talk with one of us about the film. And then we are talking about the plot, the characters, the light, the sound. So it's very specific on the film itself. We also have workshops, which we call All About Film. Depending on the age, they are 1.5 or 2 hours long. And the schools book those workshops, they come to the cinema and they have only the workshop. So they don't watch a whole movie, they only have the workshop, which is an interactive workshop where we screen them different kind of scenes from different movies and also a lot of film stills. And then we are talking about what we have seen and what we've heard in the scenes. So the teachers can decide between film history, where we are talking about who is Georges Méliès, for example, or how did film developed. And what else do we have? Also, they can book film analysis. It's very like an open workshop where we are talking about, in general, about colors, how does a film start, how is a film narrated. So we show them different scenes of different movies, and then we are talking about that. And the third workshop, which is about Pippi Longstocking, or it's based on Pippi Longstocking, we invented just half a year ago, and we said we also want to have a workshop for younger children, for example 5 to 7 years old. And we had already 5 workshops last winter, and they were really nice to have. So it's a very simple and very low basis workshop, let's say. What else do we have? We also offer theater workshops for schools after specific films. So they come to the cinema, watch the film, and 2 or 3 days afterwards, drama teacher goes to the school and have a drama workshop in the school where the children can talk about the film and within the methods of theater. And once a month we have some handicraft workshops in the cinema or short talks after selected films again. So, and the last one I wanted to show is that you can imagine how we are working with small children or young children about film analysis. For example, we screen them, we show them some pictures of movies which they sometimes know, but sometimes they don't know. And here, of course, you can say a worm's eye perspective or a bird's eye perspective on the film of Paddington 2, which is a recommendation at this moment. And in the middle, you can see, for example, a detail or a different kind of camera settings. And on the right hand, you can also see like how a parallel montage can work within the different times. Yeah, I think that's it. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.
Thank you so much for the presentation. It was really impressive, also all the scale of your activities. I wanted to ask, how big is your team? Because it seems like you also have many schools to cover, many screenings and events to cover.
We are just 7 people. So we are one chef, 2 people for technique, and 2 people at the cash desk, and like for organize like the venues in the cinema, and a colleague and mine, we are doing like the program and all the education stuff.
Wow, Wow, that's very impressive. So for the methodological papers, or for like for the educational events, for the lectures, you work with externists that you invite for the specific events, or?
No, just like we just invite guests for the talks, but we do the moderation and yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. One thing, the workshops we invented was during Corona, so that was a time where we really had time to invent something new. So for us, that was one small good part about it. So we could do new stuff.
Amazing. Yes, there is a question at the back.
Thank you. Hello. It was great to hear about your cinema. I didn't know about it, even though I visited Vienna, I don't know how many times. So great to hear about it. I've got a question that's sort of two questions kind of related. So firstly, with your International Children's Film Festival, are these all films that are made by adults for children, or are they actually made by children for children? Which is related to my second question.
Shall I answer this first? The International Children's Film Festival, which takes place in the Cinemagic and other cinemas in Vienna, there are all the films are made by adults. Most of them are feature films, but we also have sometimes documentaries, but they are made for children. So there are several international children's film festivals going on in Europe, or for example, the Generation at Berlinale, where the colleagues of mine are looking for films. So the International Children's Film Festival crew is another one, I have to say. We are just one cinema where it takes place.
Okay, so that comes to my second question, which is related to do you run any practical filmmaking workshops for children? I'm asking this question because actually Marianne Redpath is from the same country that I originally come from, who used to run Generation for years, and was interesting to see what she was doing there. And I come from a background of education and film, and something that I've noticed is that you know, there's often talk about like more women, more minorities, etc. But something that I noticed in doing workshops with people from 7 to 77 is that, you know, the 7-year-olds are quite often entrenched in very sort of, should I say, traditional male-female roles. And I have to say I was very shocked at first. And so while there are organizations like Women in Film and Television and such, and they're always focusing on getting more women in at film school level or in the industry, but in fact it really starts at 7. Or perhaps earlier than 7. So is your organisation working in that way as well? Like rather than just presenting what is, but what could be, and perhaps even should be, should I say?
Yeah, a good question. We at the cinema, we don't do those workshops like in practical, do something practical with films, but like another company from Wienxtra is called Medienzentrum, so Center of Media, I would say, and that's their specialty. So they provide equipment for children and young people up to 23, I think, and they doing workshops also for schools, like 3-day workshops where they go to the school and then they do like a film workshop with the teachers. And they have a lot of good equipment to borrow there. and they are also organizing the other film festival, which I told you about, the Young Short Film Festival, because there are really children or young people sending their movies to the festival, and then it's going to, then we screen them at the festival. And there are really children from 6-7 years on. Also, most of them are within their family or doing some films with their friends or older friends, and yeah.
So is that
Thank you.
Europe-wide, that initiative? Is that Europe-wide, or is it just something that's in Austria?
That's just Vienna. Yeah, the film festival takes place in Vienna in the Cinemagic. Therefore, sometimes children from whole Austria are sending their films, but most of them are from Vienna or the surroundings. And Wienxtra is an organization which is only in Vienna. It's from the city of Vienna, a small little part, let's say.
Thank you.
If you are interested in our recent program, I mean, of course, they are in German, but I brought some good old paper programs, because we know from most for the teachers, it's very important to send them programs from paper. So I have some here.
Perfect. Thank you so much for the presentation. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you to the great questions. And I hope we will meet again next year in March. And there will be the official launch of the publication about how to set up a screening venue. So please stay tuned. Follow us at KineDok website or KineDok social media. And enjoy the rest of the day and the rest of the festival and the platform. Thank you.